Welcome, it's 10:30. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 39th meeting of the Cass County Food Commission. First on the agenda is to approve the order and contents of the overall agenda. This is an action item, so is there a motion to approve?
I actually, sorry, good morning, everyone. I have a quick change to make. For item 11A, the next First Fridays will actually be June 3rd. They're doing a June edition this year, and it will be about the Red River Market.
Is there a second?
Is there a motion? That's a motion.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Sure,
Deb White seconds.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Same sign.
Aye.
Motion passed. Next on the agenda are the meeting notes from March 9th. Hopefully you all have a quick minute to take a look at these. This is another action item. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Almost approved. I'll second it. Deb White seconds.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion
Aye.
passed.
Aye.
Motion passed. Next on the agenda are commission introductions. We take a minute for everyone to introduce themselves. Commission members, would you like to go around and introduce yourselves first?
Jeremiah Utek, I'm a member at large, or commissioner at large, representing entrepreneurial interests.
Joan Copperwood, I'm a member at large.
Anna Johnson, I'm an at-large member.
Deb White, I'm here with the City of Moorhead. I'm on City Council.
Jeffrey Miller, Cass County Soil Conservation District.
Mandy George, City of West Fargo.
Okay, steering committee members. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Erica.
Noelle Harden. Oops, sorry, Erica. I'll just go quick with University of Minnesota Extension.
Erica Frank with Clay County Planning and Zoning.
Michelle Jackson is here with Anna Seafeld from Fargo Cass Public Health.
And Don Kinsler, NDSU Extension agent for horticulture in Cass County.
Is there anyone else in the meeting that would like to introduce themselves? Go ahead.
Crystal Ryamaji, City of Moorhead Sustainability Coordinator.
I'm Janice Tweet, Community Initiatives Manager with the Great Plains Food Bank.
Hello, Forrest Steinhoff, City of Moorhead Assistant City Planner.
And Adam Altenberg, Fargo Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments.
And Jim Austin, Delaware City Council. Okay, next on our agenda is item 3. Spotlight on community issues. Janice Tweet is with us to talk about the Great Plains Food Bank partner agencies and some of the cost issues and other challenges a local charitable feeding network is facing. Go ahead, Janice.
All right, thank you, Chair. So I have a presentation I think Adam or Noelle is going to put up for me, but while they're sharing that, as I just introduced myself, my name is Janice. I'm the Community Initiatives Manager with the Great Plains Food Bank. And so what we have been seeing across all communities, as we all know, is a lot of rising prices. And so I just want to share a little bit about what our feeding network is seeing here, our charitable feeding network, and just also do some foundation setting of just kind of what food pantries experience in terms of costs generally and what our partners are seeing. And so if you can go to the next slide, just a quick overview. I'll just go over some basic terminology, really just about foundation setting for the conversation, talk a little bit about our partner agencies, and then share a little about what we're seeing in terms of costs right now and some other challenges that are facing our network. So if you can go to the next slide. So this might feel very basic for a lot of you, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page in having this conversation. And so really just starting with the basic definition of what is a food bank versus a food pantry. So we as a food bank source food and bring it into our warehouse, and then we distribute that food to pantries and meal sites so that they can directly give the food out to clients. So at the food bank, we have some programming, but the majority of our work is about getting food to partners, and then partners really deal with that on the ground, interacting with clients and making sure that they have their food needs met. We at the Great Plains Food Bank call those we work with our partner agencies, and we work with food pantries, meal sites, or soup kitchen, have some non-traditional partners too, but mostly what we're talking about when we talk about our partners is a pantry or a soup kitchen. And we really look at them as partners, and we are working alongside our meal site and food pantry partners, working together to end hunger in the communities that we are serving. Next slide is just maybe a bit of a fuzzy, but kind of just a visual representation of what I just shared. So we are out there, we're getting food. We bring that food into our warehouse, we put it into our inventory, and then our partner agencies are able to order from that inventory, picking out the foods that they think are going to meet their client needs the best. We deliver that food to them, and then they can give that out directly to partners. So again, just more of that visual representation of how that process kind of works for us. If you want to go to the next slide, thank you. So I just want to share a little bit about what it looks like for somebody to be a partner agency with us. So we do have a partner agreement that we ask all of our partners to fill out, and it's an annual commitment. So the beginning of each calendar year, we will go back to them and ask them to agree to being a partner once again. There is an annual fee associated with that. It is a $50 fee for all agencies if they want to become a partner. That just helps to cover some of the basic costs associated with the admin side of getting people. They get access to our inventory. We set them up in our online inventory. We have some administrative things that go around our partnership. So just covering those basic fees. Anyone who is our partner then also has access to order from us through our inventory of all the food that we are bringing in. Agencies are able to place an order once a month with us, and then we take that food and deliver it directly to them. There is also a fee associated with that delivery. For most of our partners, it's a per pound fee of 4 cents per pound. So keeping costs as low as we can, but understanding that we take time and fuel and resources to be able to do that. So helping us to cover a bit of those costs. And then for our Fargo-Moorhead partners, it is a flat fee of $50 for any delivery. Our Fargo-Moorhead partners also have the ability to come directly to our warehouse and pick up for those that have that ability to transport the food themselves, and then they don't have to incur any delivery costs on that. So we get food from a number of different sources. One of those is TFAP, which is a USDA program, the Emergency Food Assistance Program. All of the food that we get through that is made free to our partners, and then we cannot put any delivery costs on those. So that food is also delivered for free. Now that is a program that's administered through USDA. And so they determine how much each state is able to get through that program. And then there are different state agencies that run that program in different states. And so in North Dakota, it is the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction who runs that. And so from there, they determine how much we can allot. They assign a dollar value to how much we can give to partners that they can use kind of as their money, quote unquote, for paying for that, but they get a fee that or an amount that they can order for a year. It's a somewhat flexible. It really, since we run, since we are the only food bank in the state, we oversee all of the TFAP programming. And so we can really work with that to make sure that we're utilizing the dollars best. So if there's a pantry who really doesn't use a lot of their TFAP allocated funding, we can make sure partners who need that get that too. Minnesota, it works a little bit differently. Since we only cover one county in Minnesota, we do see less of that flexibility, and it just kind of is what it is. There are a number of food banks that work in Minnesota, and we don't have as much access or as much flexibility to our access on the Minnesota side. We do also purchase some product. So we work with different vendors trying to source food that is both nutritional and also that is cost effective. So we do have some purchase product that is on our inventory lists. Since we purchase that product and we are cost sharing with our partners, there is usually a fee associated with some of that purchase product. Then we also get food through donation. Manufacturers will sometimes donate. If we have, if a company makes something and that product is slightly off, maybe it's pasta that they cut a little too short, they technically won't let themselves sell that. And so they'll donate that to the Feeding America Network or other food banks and food pantries. And then we're able to provide that to our partners as donation as well. We also have what we call retail rescue, where we have partnerships with like Hornbachers, Cashwise, Walmart, different retail sites that sell food, and they can get us our food that is just not selling. And this is the way that we get a lot of our fresh produce to our partners. And so retail rescue looks a little different around the state. For some of our, since we have a warehouse here in Fargo, it is very different here, but for our out of state area, we do work with Cashwise, and sometimes we'll have partners who can just go directly to Cashwise, for example, pick up food from them that they can't sell and take it and distribute it that day. Here in Fargo-Moorhead, we have retail rescue routes that we run. And so we have different retailers that will visit through the day. Our truck will go pick food up, and then they'll spend the rest of their day delivering that food to different partners. So a lot of our partners here are on that retail rescue, and we're able to provide that food for free. And it is the food that they are just not going to be able to sell by that sell date. We know that that food is probably still good and has a little bit longer shelf life, but they just can't sell it anymore due to their rules and regulations. So trying to make sure that that food doesn't go to waste and instead gets in the hands of people who need it. And we do also encourage partners to seek other sources of food too. So our partners can always take donations from other places if they have particular relationships with their local stores. If they have community members bringing in food, of course, they can get food from any source beyond us that they want to as well. If you could go to the next slide. So we have been seeing for a while, we've been seeing some different increased costs, and these are just a few examples of what we're seeing just to try to provide a little bit of insight into what we've been experiencing. And so these are, like I said, just a couple of the more recent things that we've seen. So the first cost you see there, we know our freight costs are going up because, of course, fuel is going up. We work with a third-party trucking company once in a while to help support some of what we do. This particular example is that we are able to get food through the Feeding America Network from Second Harvest Heartland in Minneapolis. And so we have a third-party trucking company that we work with to help us get the food back and forth between here and there. And 2 weeks ago, that delivery cost us $550, and just in 2 weeks, our most recent one this week was $720. So just this week we saw, or just within the last month, we saw a 31% increase in what we were paying to get that food here to our warehouse. That is fairly typical. I think more what we've been seeing is kind of that 20-25% increase, but our operations team thinks that that's just the beginning. It could go up to 35%, and we might see those freight costs being increased for a while. Just a couple food things, as you can see there too. A chunk or a case of chunk chicken has increased 36%, and these numbers were taken from a recent order that we did, comparing them to an order that we did last October. So you'll see chunk chicken and beef stew had quite a considerable increase, and that these were also taken from the same vendor. So just what we're seeing in same vendor, what they have available to us for the same product, we are seeing increases. So we're seeing it a little bit more on the meat side too, that those prices are going up, and prices really, of course, are definitely variable. So sometimes we'll see things going down a bit, maybe sometimes they're going up. And of course, it really depends on when we're ordering and what we need to, just a lot of nuances that go into this when we're ordering food by the truckload. This is also just the truckload example might not be the most apples to apples comparison, but we previously, a year ago, I took this one from, we could purchase a truck of food from a vendor for about $23,000 for all the food and a freight cost, whereas now we're paying about $38,000 for that same truckload of food. So again, this is a little bit, it might be a different amount of food or different types of food on the truck. We do see, of course, our every truckload doesn't look the same in terms of what food is on it. So sometimes there's some fluctuation just due to that. But that does include rising freight costs that we're seeing more on, and those different costs that we're seeing. So definitely a pretty big increase on that one. You can go to the next slide. Just a couple of other, to not take too much more of your time, a couple other things that I want to point out. Through COVID, the food bank was able to get a lot of funding through the government that we used to purchase food. And then all the food that we purchased with our COVID-19 funding, we did make available for free to our food pantry partners and meal site partners. And so we don't have that funding source anymore. So a lot of our partners are seeing fewer items on our inventory list that they can get for free just due to that. One other thing that we are always really trying to be mindful of when we are ordering food is that we want to source quality, nutritious food so that our neighbors have access to good food too. And so we are trying to always keep a balance between making sure that we get nutritious foods in while also ensuring that we are being cost efficient as much as we can be. We also have seen a lot of decreased product availability throughout COVID, and I know we're all seeing that ourselves when we go to the grocery store. Meat has been something particularly lately that we're just not finding the opportunity to get meat a lot recently. And then we know that there's been baby formula shortages lately, and just kind of throughout all of COVID, we've seen different products kind of going up and down in terms of our being able to source them. If you want to go to the next slide. So we all know, as I said, we have these increased costs, and how can people help? And it's really about donating. If you have food that you can donate, money can go a long way, because then pantries and mail sites can really do what they need to do to be able to get exactly what they need. If they find out that they are short on peanut butter, they can run out to Walmart, grab peanut butter, have it for that distribution that day. So money is always the most flexible thing. And then food, of course, though, if you have food, if you have a local pantry, you can donate stuff, especially as we're coming up on gardening season. If you garden and want to plant an extra row of food to donate to your pantry, that local produce can really help pantries out too. And then, of course, donating time.
Any questions for Janice?
So if you're interested in volunteering, you can always reach out to your local food pantry, or if you have a neighbor or a pantry or meal site in your community, really just connecting with them to see what their needs are specifically and see how you can help them. One thing that we always say is that each food pantry and meal site looks different. So everyone has their own unique needs and challenges. And so happy to answer. I'm not sure, I think I'm a little over on time, so happy to answer if there's any quick questions now, or moving forward, if you ever have questions about our local pantries and meal sites, always happy to be a resource for that too.
Thank you, Janice. Next on the agenda is item 4, recap from Garden Ozua. Don from NDSU Extension in Cass County is here with us to talk a little about this event, which occurred on April 23rd. Don, would you like to say a few words? Go ahead, Don.
Great, thank you. And good morning, and thank you for inviting me. Don Kinsler, NDSU Extension Agent for Horticulture in Cass County. And yes, we had a wonderful event called Garden Palooza. And if I may, I'll share my screen and share a few photos of that day and tell you a little bit about it. So now, are you seeing my screen? Garden Palooza? Okay, thank you much. Well, the story starts a few years ago when a number of us in the horticulture community in Fargo-Moorhead said, you know, we would like an all-day gardening event that would be yearly, similar to what other cities in our community have. Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, Perham, all had garden events, all-day garden events that had lasted 30, 40 years. And we thought, you know, this would be really nice for Fargo to have. So a few years ago, in 2019, when I joined NDSU Extension again after 35 years away from Extension, one of the first things that I did was begin planning an all-day gardening event. One of the first things that I did in planning this was to form a committee with our NDSU Extension Master Gardeners. We developed a core committee, and one of the things was, okay, what do we call this all-day gardening event? And one of our committee members came up with Garden Palooza. And isn't that a great great name for a gardening event? So we began planning the all-day gardening event. And after 2 years of delay because of the epidemic, we set the date for Saturday, April 23rd. And the template that we used was one that we kind of copied from several towns in Minnesota that had long-running 30-year all-day gardening events. So we located it at a school, and Shanley High School was very welcoming. We located it at a school for a couple of reasons. On a Saturday, plenty of parking right by the doors, an auditorium for keynote speaker, cafeteria for lunch, and lots of classrooms for breakout sessions with projectors, screens, and the whole works. So we copied a successful template, and the day began. So shortly after we had started publicizing the event, within about a week, we had all the registrations. We did pre-register because we needed to know exactly how many people we would be coming. We didn't dare open it up to day of registration. So we did require pre-registration. We had set a cap at 200, which we felt would be manageable. Plus, we had 40 Master Gardener volunteers that were going to be helping to put this on. And we had 20 breakout session presenters and 12 vendors. So the day started April 23rd. The day began with a keynote speaker that we had brought in from Waconia, Minnesota, named Mike Hager. He gave a keynote and a cap note at the end on perennial gardens, and perennials are a hot topic in gardening right now. Then after the initial keynote, then everyone split up into breakout sessions. And now our Master Gardeners were all designated by bright yellow Garden Palooza aprons. They help direct traffic, answer questions, and so they're very visible. Our 40-some Master Gardener volunteers. Now, the breakout sessions in the different classrooms were topics, everything from vegetable gardening to houseplants, flower growing, tomatoes, you name it. We tried to have a breakout session tailored to that. And of course, the lunch ladies. The lunch, we wanted to be creative. And so we had these in a little flower bucket. And Prairie Road Organic Seeds of Fullerton, North Dakota, donated enough seed packs to put a seed pack in every lunch. Now, in the lunchroom, in the cafeteria, we surrounded the outer perimeters with our vendors. We wanted the vendors to have easy access to all of the attendees. So we thought, what better way than to have them right on the outside of all the lunch going on. So then in the middle of the afternoon, when we had all assembled back into the auditorium for the final cap note, everyone's phones started going off because there were tornado warnings. but the show must go on. And we were in the safe space in the school. And so we proceeded on. The tornado sirens did not go off. It did move kind of to the north. So we were okay. And the day ended then after the cap note speaker with, we distributed door prizes that had been donated by the vendors. And the final thing that we said was, see you next year. We've already got the date set, April 15th, Saturday, for Garden Palooza 2023. And one of the most fascinating things of the entire day was the ability of all these gardeners to come together. 280 people in all that came together, visited, talked about gardening, learned things. And I think it was a really, really good day for the first ever Garden Palooza, and we're looking forward to it. I hope it'll run for the next 30 or 40 years. And if there are any questions about Garden Palooza, I'll gladly entertain now. Thank you. Any questions that I could answer?
Don, what a successful event. Congratulations. Do you
Well, thank
think
you.
that do you think that you'll increase the cap for attendees next year?
Now, a very good question. And we've put a lot of thought into this. Now, at the current venue of Shanley, and probably other schools as well, 200 suits the facility very well. That is about what the cafeteria held. There is another wing of classrooms, but I think for at least the near future, we will probably keep it capped at 200. That's a nice manageable group. If we increase much, we would have to find another venue. Some people ask, oh, why don't you hold this on the NDSU campus? But really, there are no buildings or facilities that would probably be as good as one of our schools. Anything else that I could answer? As in, we did, we had evaluations, of course, and so many people were so grateful. And the camaraderie, of course, is one of the great things in this. So again, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this morning. Thank you.
I had a quick question. What was
Yes.
the cost for that, Dawn?
What was the cost? The cost for the attendees, the registrants, was $40, and that included the lunch as well. And so we kept it well within budget, and the event made a profit. So we were very happy.
Well, thank you, Don.
Thank you much.
Next is item 5, more sustainable coordinator update. Crystal is the city new sustainable coordinator, and she here to share a few words with us. So Crystal, go ahead.
Hi, let's see. Let me share my screen. I do have a little PowerPoint that I put together here. So I think, give me a minute to get this figured out here. There we go. Okay, and then here. Okay, can everybody see that now? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you. I use this for a class, so I'm going to work off of it, and then I'll try to give you updates. I made this a few weeks ago. So thank you for having me here today. I'm so happy to be speaking with you. So my name is Crystal Ryamaji, and I'm the new City Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Moorhead. Just a little bit of background. I have a BS in Environmental Studies and a BA in Psychology. And I'm really excited with my background. I want to do a combination of kind of behavior change programs, or I can use that kind of background to think about community-based social marketing and try to work on the behavior side of things. Also as related to environmental policy, there's so much we can do that are just one-time changes in people's lives or policy from the city that have a really big impact on the environment. So I'm really excited to be able to use both aspects of my background to help promote sustainability in the city. And I can kind of work through skip a lot of that. Oh, shoot, no, it's. So I'm doing a lot with the city with our sanitation department right now. And I'm really interested in sanitation. For my internship with the city of Grand Forks, I actually did a waste characterization study. So that was really interesting. So like one of my goals here with the city is to look for ways that we can try to reduce the amount of waste that we have going to the landfill and utilizing our waste as a resource. And not just seeing it as like a cost necessarily. So going forward, this will be some of the things that I want to look for with sanitation. And okay, this is taking a little, there we go. Okay. So kind of how I came to be with this position now, I was actually working as a seasonal with forestry for 2 years. Well, 1 year I was technically a seasonal, and then I also got into forestry corps. So I held a forestry corps position for about a year. So I was one of the people that would go around and mark our diseased elm trees. And, you know, I hear it from residents occasionally like, oh, you know, they remove this perfectly healthy elm tree and why would they do that? But, you know, a lot of times what we're doing is we're probably seeing a sign of the tree that's diseased that the average resident can't really pick up on. And the thing is, like, the quicker we can get those trees out of there, the less likely they are to spread disease to other trees. So that's just a little background information on that program. So I did quite a bit of work with that. There you go. So with my forestry corps position, I really helped a lot with our food forest project. So that was collaboration between the city and Resilient Moorhead. And I did like the proposal and some of the budgeting and helped a lot, you know, with like the on-ground prep work and getting the trees in. And that was an amazing event. We had like 70 volunteers that came and helped put the trees in. And last year, actually, like 2 of the apple trees actually produced apples. Like not a lot, but they had like 3 on them. So it was really exciting. So you know, we are so excited to see that continue to establish, and we're hoping in the next like 3 years or so, we'll hopefully see more apple trees. And if you guys ever go out there, we do have berry bushes on you'll kind of see these little groupings here on the sides of the planting, and those are berries. We have aronia berry, and they were producing last year already. So if anybody wants to go out there and harvest aronia berry, this is just a free for all. So people can go out there. We have it all fenced for deer and rabbits and, you know, voles and all that stuff. So our fencing currently isn't the easiest to get in and out of, and we'll probably have to try to fix that up to make it a little bit more inviting for the community to use. But if you guys want to try aronia berries, they'll probably be producing this year again. We're also, we have planted honeyberries. I'm very excited. I had one last year and it was delicious. If you guys are not aware, honeyberries are like very healthy. They're actually better for you than blueberries. And we got a variety that was bred with like a Canadian and a Japanese type. It's called a Haskap also. So we have some of those in there, which are really delicious. What else do we have? I think that's it for berries, but yeah, come try them out. For the trees, we've got 70 apple trees, 15 plum and 15 pear. I also co-wrote our Emerald Ash Borer management plan last year with that position. So it was really fun. So I have like sanitation and forestry background. That was us from the food forest planting. Last fall, our public works director asked me to convert this area in front of our public works building into a pollinator bed. We, as a city, had just signed the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. I think it was last April. I think early last April. So we've been a signatory of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge for just a little over a year now. So as part of this pledge, you're supposed to set goals as a city to help promote habitat for pollinators. So I took this one on because it was the grass kind of needed to be redone anyway. So we ended up very quickly transitioning it into a pollinator bed. And while I was at it, These downspouts that we had coming off of the Public Works building were always like gushing with water. So I thought, well, we should also put a rain garden in. So there's also 3 rain gardens. They're not nearly big enough to actually hold all the water that would be coming off the roof, but they at least slows that water down, where before we had like a lot of soil getting washed into our parking lot. So I'm excited to see what comes in this summer from that planting. And as part of that too, there was a rose trial. Okay, so sorry. So this is last fall, what everything looked like when it came in. And by the way, 5 minutes after getting these things planted, we had bees and different pollinator species finding this. It was amazing. So I don't know what it is. Like, I actually researched a lot to try to find like the favorite plants for all these pollinators. And it worked. We had bees finding it right away. It was really great. Okay, so another fun thing that I did last year with our new forestry corps member, who is Patrice Delaney. She's amazing. We moved this rose trial that Extension actually put in back in 2008, I want to say. So it's by our dog park on 15th Avenue North, but they're doing some construction on this building. So I was told like, hey, if you want to try to rescue these, they're going to be tore up. So if you want to get them out, you can. So just to give you an idea, like here's our before picture. So they hadn't been cleaned out in quite a few years. And so me and Patrice went through and kind of got all the dead canes out, and look what happened after just a couple of days. Like this was like end of September, mind you, like early October. And these things bloom for us. So that was really neat that they just kind of needed a little extra oxygen and get that old, material out of there. So we used a tree spade and we got those, and we've planted them in areas throughout that pollinator planting, also at Public Works, and try to do a little bit of landscaping like around some of our signs. And some of them are budding back. So that's exciting because that was a rush job too. Because we had the tree spade, so we just got them all out. So yeah, so that's a little bit of about like past what I've been up to. So I officially started on the 14th. Like I said, I'm working a lot with sanitation right now, trying to like learn more about our Green Steps program. Like I was familiar with it, but trying to like dig into the data and really understand where we're at and where we need to go as a city to continue to improve upon our metrics. I want to do more work with landscaping. Like I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I'm working on seeking out more grant funding as time allows. We actually just got awarded a CPL grant, which is really exciting. That's, again, work through the Resilient Moorhead and City of Moorhead. But yeah, we got a grant to convert 15 acres of turf grass into prairie. So that's really going to be great. So we're working on getting those logistics figured out now, so that project's moving. So that's really fun. We're going to start doing some planting this by the fall for sure for some plugs. And we're working with United Prairie Foundation on that. Let's see, I'm probably getting to be running out of time also. So these are just some of our Green Steps metrics I pulled out. Yeah, last week we had our Earth Week City Council volunteer events that I helped coordinate. These were obviously supposed to be Earth Week, but Earth Week was terribly cold and snowy. We couldn't even find litter, so we pushed it out and it got a little bit warmer. So we did some litter pickup. We also did buckthorn removal, and that's something to I want to do more buckthorn removal in the future, but these events were really, they came together really great. We didn't have a huge turnout with volunteers, but we had a really great active group or set of groups that came out every night. We got all of the work done. It was amazing. And I'm so grateful for everybody that came, and it was awesome to work with our city council members and see them interact with our residents and community. So again, I've kind of mentioned this planting at Southside Regional and MB Johnson. This is what we got the grant for. So 15 acres of turf grass, we're planting some strips of plugs and then seeding the rest just for cost. But we will need help with the plugs. And I kind of need like, you know, people who kind of know how to plant or like, you know, are really willing to learn how to plant well, because we want these plugs to survive and do really great. So if you guys know of people that love planting, I would really appreciate the help to get those in. Not for sure when yet, so more details to come, but I have my email at the end. And then the buckthorn removal went really well, and we really didn't have that many, like a huge number of volunteers that came, but the number we had, they worked so hard and they were amazing. And Deb White was there, and you can speak to this too. They were great. And we got a lot of buckthorn removed with, you know, maybe like 6 people. It was amazing. So I would really like to look for another event in the future and clear out a larger area of our woods and some of these parks. So more details to come on that too. I hooked up, or I met with somebody in the community who's really interested in helping me with this. And there's a nonprofit that's interested too. So I think there's a lot that could happen with that. And yeah, so any questions? And here is my contact information. And thank you so much for having me today.
Any questions for Crystal?
Crystal, and congratulations in your new position. I have a question about No Mow May, which you can address, or maybe others on the call are interested in this concept that's been really taking off in Wisconsin and spreading into Minnesota. And basically it encourages and allows homeowners and others to not have to mow throughout the month of May. And this has been studied to have a huge benefit for pollinators, and actually can help promote healthier lawns as well. And it wouldn't cost anything. So I just wanted to put in a plug for Moorhead and others to consider adopting a new policy around No Mow May.
Yeah, and I think that's something we could consider for future times. I think like I first heard about it sort of like very, very late April. And I thought it was a really great idea, but we were so steeped with like getting these city council events going and, you know what I mean? Cleanup week, and, you know, so those things are already very heavy lifts. And I just saw a yard sign out the other day. So I think it's really exciting that the community is just kind of organically doing this. So I think this is something we should maybe like think about for future years.
And I'll just add too, from a, you know, in terms of the city, because obviously this year, I don't think it's going to be issue with of people having lawns that get too long, but you know, we do have, there's always the potential if somebody had a really long lawn that they could, you know, get, somebody could turn them in and they could get fined for it. But what we could do is look at putting a hold on that for the month of May. So that's, you know, we could look at in terms of policy and in terms of promotion too. So that'd be great to do for next year.
Any other questions? Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is item 6, Moorhead Country Comprehensive Plan Update. Deb White and Forrest Steinoff will take a few minutes to talk about the city newly adopted comprehensive plan. Well, Deb and Forrest, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start off. Yeah, Forrest and I are going to kind of tag team on this, and I'll give a little background of where we're at right now, and then Forrest is going to go into some of the details of what's in the plan. So I hope most of you know, we did pass our comprehensive plan on March 28th. So we now have it. It's been a couple of years in the works, and I really appreciate all of you that have given community input. If you haven't had a chance to look through the final version of it, I strongly encourage you to do that. You can find it on the city's webpage or just Google Onward Moorhead. And there's a lot in there, and you know, a comp plan is so important. It really kind of gives us our marching orders for the next 10 to 20 years. And And now we're starting to talk about implementation. So if you look at it, there's a lot in there. And one of the things that I like when they put this together to kind of distill down what we prioritize, one of the things you'll notice in it is it has these what they put is these 5 big ideas. And so Forrest is going to tell you about some of the specific things, but even if you're looking at that, I want to point out number 4 is one of those things that, again, just to see what is it that we prioritize, you know, what were some of the things that we really value that came up a lot in our discussions. And that, so number 4 for our big ideas was embracing resilient environmental and equitable solutions, planning for infrastructure, building, development, energy, and climate adaptation while building a greener community. And so that is one of those things that we said is a big priority for us. And then it comes out in different places in the plan. And I think that, you know, before I turn it over to Forrest, I'll just say, I think that was one of the things you could see that was really different than past comprehensive plans, that we really tried to push the limits of what a comprehensive plan is. And rather than just sort of like focusing on what can be built where, you know, it was really more of how do we use the land and create space to build community, to help people be healthier, have better lives, you know, a much more holistic way of looking at a comprehensive plan than maybe has been done in the past. So lots of information. And so I will turn it over to Forrest for a minute. He's going to talk to you about some of the specific things that are in there that are related to issues that are relevant to our group.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so like Deb was saying, just recently adopted our comprehensive plan. And so now for implementation, a lot of it is just kind of having some internal staff discussions with everybody, Public Works, Parks and Rec, the planning department, of course. And really, like, what does this look like for the future? Do we have the staff capabilities to handle what we want to do? You know, we'll be having more conversations with the community about how to implement this. You know, what do community gardens look like to you? And we've got a couple of items that we know we want, or council has planned for their workshops this year. And so the first one is like natural lawns. So right now, natural lawns are permitted within the city, but you have to apply for it. And with that, you have to come up with a land management plan stating like what kind of plants you're going to have, how you're going to maintain it, plant succession over time. And then on top of that, you have to either mail or personally go around to neighbors within 200 feet of your property and let them know about what's going to happen. And if 51% of your neighbors oppose your project, then it has to go before Planning Commission, and then it would have to go before City Council to make a final determination. And so that's really complicated and just kind of puts a lot of people off to even considering doing this. So what we're kind of looking at doing now is last year we revamped our boulevard planting permit. And we're kind of hoping to make the native lawns more like that too, where, you know, you just have to make sure that it's being maintained. It's not overhanging onto the sidewalk or curbs. They have to be able to tolerate snow storage and the salt from the winter. Can't exceed 24 inches in height if it's an interior lot. If it's a corner lot or near a driveway, then it just can't be over like 18 inches in height. And then just making sure that you're using mulch to prevent erosion. And if it's close to the curb, making sure that it's at least an inch below the sidewalk and the curb. So making it just a lot more easier for people to understand, making it a not super complex process. Something else that we're looking at doing is possibly urban chickens. We've started kind of taking a look at what that would look like. We're hoping to model it kind of after Fargo's ordinance, but there's no timeline for either of these to be implemented. And we'd likely reach out to the community before bringing it to our planning commission and to council to make sure that it's kind of meeting the guidelines that the community wants, make sure that there aren't any underlying fears associated with it, stuff like that. So then getting into the nuts and bolts of the comprehensive plan, there's a bunch of different sections where urban agriculture and just sustainable landscapes come into play. Under land use and community design, we've got our parks and open space principles. And 2 of them call for flexible use and making sure that native plantings are incorporated into our parks and recreation areas. And so that's really one of the conversations we're having right now is what does that look like? And as Crystal mentioned earlier, we're looking at possibly doing a bunch of landscaping around the ponds, making it less turf, providing place for pollinators, birds, other wildlife to be able to hang out. But then also one thing that we've been doing in addition to MB Johnson Park is adding some fruit trees in other parks around the town. And so Rompke actually just this year got a couple of fruit trees. And so we're really excited about that, what that means for the neighborhood. And hopefully we'll be able to recreate that in other parks around town too. As part of the Green Steps process, one of the things that we also looked at is how many residential units are within a mile of food sources. And I can share a map of that really quick here too. Let me get that pulled up here. So all the parcels in green are within 1 mile of access of either fresh fruits and vegetables or within a mile of a food vendor. And so we've got like the purple, our big box stores over here by along the border with Dilworth, our CSA locations, community supported agriculture. We do have 2 community gardens run by churches. And then we've got a couple of other spots like these urban orchards. This year we chose not to include Rompke Park right here as a site for the urban orchard, just because those trees probably won't be producing fruit for a couple of years. But we're excited to say that there are approximately 9,434 parcels, or about 77% of the city is within 1 mile of fresh fruits and vegetables or some sort of local food source. And that's an improvement of about 2% over last year. So we're really excited about that. And then going back to the comp plan, within that, we've got a whole bunch of different goals and strategic policies, both under parks and open space, and then sustainability and resiliency. I won't go too into the details, but a whole bunch of them are things like making sure that we're building long-lasting, innovative parks to handle, the rain, the flooding, climate change adaptation, evaluating all of our infrastructure through an environmental resiliency lens, ensuring that everybody in Moorhead has access to high quality open spaces, parks, different opportunities around town. And then really, we're just making sure that we're continuing to partner with some of our great partners that we have, like Riverkeepers, Audubon Dakota. Last year, we actually partnered with Audubon Dakota to install a new urban woods and prairie site up at Oakport Prairie, or Probstfield Prairie, up in the Oakport neighborhood. So that was really exciting to see. And then, yeah, we're just going to continue to solicit feedback from residents on how we can implement agricultural uses in residential zoning districts and increase access to fresh and healthy foods, increase pollinator spaces. And, being a member of the Green Step Cities program has really helped us to get ahead of this too, because we were already thinking about this and starting to implement on top of then this comprehensive plan where we were hearing from the community, yes, we want more of this. So that's just been a huge boost to us. And then one other thing that I just wanted to mention really quickly too is over the last couple of years, we've been trying to figure out ways that we can make it easier for just everybody to grow food. And so one thing that we've been able to do is determine that greenhouses are not considered an accessory structure. Because what was really limiting it before is that accessory structures here are regulated at whether it's an attached, detached garage or a shed. And so a lot of people already have a garage and a lot of people have a backyard gardening shed. And so all of a sudden people weren't able to put up a greenhouse if they wanted to. So we decided to exclude that from the accessory structure itself. It does have to still meet other zoning codes like setbacks, building and impervious surface coverages, building codes if it's a large structure over 200 square feet. But yeah, we're really just trying to make it easier for people to plant pollinator spaces, do some gardening, increase their access to fresh food and vegetables. Yeah. Deb, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah. So, and you can, as you can see, there's a lot in there, and I think everybody is really excited about it. And now the big thing is making sure that we are working on implementation. And so we don't want this to be something that is like, oh, we did this great report and then it kind of goes on a shelf. That we really want to make sure that we are utilizing it to the greatest extent. And so you can hear from Forrest some of the things we're already starting to work on. One of the things that I'll mention, because Christy Lashevsky told me I could say this too, besides things like we are going to be looking at our policy regarding chickens and again, what you can plant on private property. One of the things that we're looking is piloting next year, scholarships for community gardens. So I know that's one of the things we've talked about in this group, that, you know, where we have options on the other side of the river that we haven't had in Moorhead. And so we're really looking at how we can start to expand support for that in Moorhead. And then looking ahead, it's, you know, what can this group do? First of all, again, I want to thank all of you who've been so involved with the comprehensive plan, because this was really a community effort. And I think it reflects the voices of people throughout the community. And we want that to continue. So I think just continue to be involved. It's important to us that we're making evidence-based decisions. And so I think this group has been so valuable when we can see examples of policy, what's been done in other communities. I think about things like, as we're looking at the, if we will consider changing our policy on having chickens in residential areas, we have a great example of how it's been going in Fargo that we can look to. And so that kind of, that opportunity to learn from and look at the examples that all of you have had, and then just keep, sharing your voices. Come to our council meetings, come to planning committee meetings, bring your kids. We know that some of you have kids that are great at speaking at public meetings. And that is really valuable to help with that implementation. So we really appreciate the support from this group, and it's helping us to, again, make sure we have a good plan that we can carry forward with. So thank you. We're happy to answer any questions too.
I have a question. I'm Joan Hopperud. Maybe Crystal can answer it, or you, Deb. In the comprehensive plan, is there any plans for or discussion long range for a curbside composting? I know, like the city of Northfield has a deliver, you can subscribe and get a 5-gallon bucket, and then it diverts organic composting, including your food scraps and so on. And I'm just wondering if there's conversation or if it's in the comprehensive plan. And I apologize, I have not read through the whole plan. So
yeah, and it's not in the plan, but Crystal, if you have anything you want to say about that, I know there's been discussions about food composting a little bit, but not a lot that I've heard of. So Crystal, if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I looked into that as part of like my waste characterization study up in Grand Forks, because part of that report that I did, like looking at all that was going to the landfill out of the residential, and then trying to figure out like what are our diversion channels. And at least with Grand Forks, and we call that source separated organics. So that's something to be aware of too. Like when we say compost, like we do collect the yard waste, like your leaves and your grasses. But I think what you're getting at is like food waste, right? Yes. So from okay, sounds good. The little bit that I know of is, at least when we looked at it, it was very expensive. I do not remember, but it would have been cost prohibitive up there. However, I just heard of like some other city nearby that was doing it. So I think that would take a lot of study to figure out like, what would it cost here? Do we have the resources? Do we have the manpower to do it? If we want to do it, do we raise fees? Like, you know what I mean? Like there would be all these, logistically, it would be probably a lot. So probably something to look at, but it's, yeah, like that's all I know right now.
Thank you.
I'll just say too, this is a slight tangent, but just since I know this has been something we've gotten questions about lately, if you may have heard, we're considering changing to requiring compostable bags, so instead of the clear plastic ones that we currently allow, you can use paper also, but we're looking at ones that are biodegradable bags. And I know that for those of you who are on Moorhead Equals Fantastic, they were hearing at some of the stores that we had already implemented that. We haven't yet, we're discussing it. And so we wanted to work with the stores to make sure those things were available. And it would be something that we would phase in over time, make sure we do a lot of good education around it. But that's one of those things that it's like those plastic bags are terrible on our equipment. And of course they contaminate when they, if they do get in with the compost and things like that. So it's another thing that we're working on. But if you hear people talking about it, just let them know we'll definitely make sure that they're aware of it as we work at if we're going to phase something like that in.
Any other questions, Deb and Forrest? Thank you. Next on agenda is item 7, a letter of support request procedure. Noel is going to take a few minutes to talk about the steering committee conversations about this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deb and Forrest, for that wonderful update. So I'll make this quick. You might remember in January, we endorsed our first ever letter of support for a grant as the Cass Clay Food Commission. And it kind of threw us for a loop at that meeting, but we were able to work through that. But the steering committee has discussed, first of all, that we would love to do more letters of support for folks in the community applying for grants, nominating for awards and things like that. And what we feel makes sense for the process would be for the 2 co-chairs of the steering committee. So right now that would be myself and Michelle Draxton to review letters of support, use the previous letter as kind of a template that we can use to work with the applicant or the requester to refine their letter. And then we will distribute that to the rest of the steering committee and work with our commission chair to get those letters approved and signed. So the key thing here is that we don't feel it is feasible for letters of support to be voted on by the full commission since we only meet 5 times a year. So that's what we're proposing for the process. Not sure that we actually need action around that. But if you have any questions, concerns, I would love to hear those.
Any questions for Noel? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is item 8, Widows and Community Support Recognition. Michelle has a few people and organizations that she would like to highlight for their work in the community. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. As a steering committee, we recently have decided that it would be kind of fun to add a new agenda item in terms of recognizing individuals or programs that are happening right here in our community, to just be able to highlight them and bring awareness. And so if you see them, to say congratulations, kudos, thank them for all of the wonderful things that they're doing. So I just have a few that I would like to announce this morning. And the first one is about the New Roots Farm Incubator. They recently received the Clay County Farm Family of the Year Award through the University of Minnesota Extension. And that official announcement is going to be coming out later this summer, so stay on the lookout for that. The next recognition is for Verna Craigness. Verna won the 2022 Environmental Initiative Critical Collaborator Award for her leadership of New Roots and other efforts to support local farmers. And that is going to be celebrated on May 18th. So we want to give a shout out to Verna for that. And the Critical Collaborator Award recognizes individuals who have dedicated their career to creating a lasting impact on the environment, environmental health, or environmental justice through partnership and addressing environmental challenges. So congratulations, Verna and New Roots. The next thing that I would like to recognize is the James Beard Foundation Award. Many of you may have heard of the James Beard Award, but it is a recognition of the exceptional talent and achievement in the culinary arts, hospitality, media, and the broader food system. As well as demonstrating commitment to racial and gender equity, community sustainability, and a culture where all can thrive. So this is a national award, and we have 2 local chefs who are recognized this year. Austin Colbert of Rosewild and Ryan Nitschke of Luna Fargo. Austin is being recognized as outstanding chef. He's up for that award, and Ryan Nitschke is up for best chef in the Midwest. So that will be celebrated in June. So keep on the lookout for that. Congratulations to those 2. And then finally, we just kind of wanted to highlight a few local cookbooks that have been written and published by individuals in our community. The first one is Midwest Mediterranean, Finding Health and Flavor with the Foods of the North. And that was a collaboration between several authors. Noreen Thomas, Megan Meardahl, David Clardy, Fidel Namor, William Schultz, and Peter Schultz. And that really talks about the Mediterranean diet, the benefits of that, as well as many recipes in that cookbook. There was also the 2021 Growing Together cookbook, which is a collaborative effort of the Growing Together Gardens and NDSU Extension. So feel free to check that one out. And then the final recognition and kudos is for the Cabin Chef with Sarah Watson cookbook. A lot of recipes that emphasize foods locally and would be a wonderful gift for anyone. So congratulations to everybody there, and thank you.
See that Verna is here, and we have a little extra time. Verna, is there anything that you'd like to say about the award that you have received?
Any other questions?
I'm trying to open up. There we go. Well, it's been a little embarrassing, I guess. I'm not used to being in the spotlight like this. I truthfully, and lots of fun. I'm excited about the opportunity at this event to actually be bringing visibility to all the great work up in this community. Because I think for this more Twin Cities focused effort and nonprofit and all of the sponsors, they normally have like 500 people at this event that's coming up. We don't know if the pandemic will restrict that number, but they're thinking at least 250, and that means a lot of people are learning about the great work up in the Fargo-Moorhead area. So that's what I'm excited about. I did put a link in the post. We have a VISTA position that relates to the work, food access, and so on with a new nonprofit, Prairie. So there's information posted, and then this will save my needing to plug into the public comment portion.
Any other questions and comments?
I have a question, Verna. Is that position is here locally or?
Yes, it would be here, and it's essentially working closely with the church, First Congregational United Church of Christ, and also the New American Development Agency and Prairie, although Prairie is the official host in providing the funding for the position. And it grew out of actually last fall when my husband and I dropped off squash and pumpkins at a local food shelf and found that despite all of the wonderful interfaces around local food access, we were greeted with great joy that they'd had a hard time getting fresh produce. And we got into deeper conversations. And so it's meant to see if we can't continue to strengthen the linkages and also perhaps I'm really excited to hear about some of the changes in the comprehensive plan, because the hope was to really encourage a lot more home gardening on backyard lots and so on, and to provide some education to youth to get involved and so on. But the Vista position is meant not to be necessarily the implementer as the creator of the structure to help make that happen. So this person would be in a role initially the first year with doing a lot of networking and sort of helping to support the general kind of focus that I was hearing in the thrust and the comprehensive plan.
Very cool. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Michelle. Next on agenda is our public comment opportunity. As a reminder, there's a comment form link that is sent out with the meeting agenda and packet. As of this morning, no online comments have been received. But is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak at this time? Go ahead. Okay.
Bjorn, did you have something?
Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Sorry, I wasn't sure if someone else had raised their hand first. And I apologize for not filling out that form beforehand. Thank you, Chairman, for this time. Real briefly here, for those of you who might not know me, my name is Bjorn Solberg. I own an organic potato storage and supply business where I sell to distributors on a wholesale level in the Twin Cities area. I also work with Minneapolis Public Schools in their school program and various other outlets. I have recently helped create Red River Harvest Cooperative, which is a group of us food producers in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And actually, which I know I've presented to the Food Commission before here. Since that time, we've actually gotten connected, received some funding through a nonprofit organization, or a group of them in the state of Minnesota that are really promoting and trying to support organizations like us, mobile farmers market hubs, basically. And so really the goal of Red River Harvest Cooperative is just to be a service provider or provide services to local food producers in the name of increasing food access. And so with providing that support to producers, customers are going to benefit in numerous ways as far as convenience of ordering and hopefully with finding a price point that's agreeable to them. On that note, I appreciate the time to talk a little bit today, since I saw that the part of the focus today was on lack of or the food access issue with currently going on with food shelves in the food bank with the rising costs of food prices. And this is something that I guess I've been interested in, passionate about since college, which is what led me to purchasing this organic potato business, starting this local food cooperative, is that we're starting to really see, everybody's starting to see the issues with our food system. That's really been, you know, obviously added to with COVID, but there's many issues over the last 20 plus years that have been making it, that have just made our food system not ideal in my mind. And so really my passion is trying to bolster our local food system here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, because when you think of it, a lot of our fresh produce is coming from the cities, and then which is coming from, say, like California or other far places away. When we're dealing with continued issues such as pandemics, avian bird flu, terrorism against, you know, meat processing facilities, climate change, different things associated with that. When California is producing a lot of our produce and they're experiencing more extreme droughts, wildfires, immigration issues, oh my goodness, guys, you name it. There's just a lot of things that impact our food system. And I think as far as, especially up here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, I would just encourage you guys to be really focusing on how to be proactive about making our food system resilient for our region. And that's kind of where I'm hoping to help step in. I've taken on a director of wholesale operations role with Red River Harvest Cooperative. Really, I'm just trying to explore how we can get our local producers to scale up through various programs, such as a farm to school program, or farm to food shelf, or farm to restaurant even. Because right now we have, you know, really good farmers markets. We're getting, you know, good direct to consumer sales, but it's not allowing producers to scale up. And really, that's that's my focus. So I'm here today, real briefly, just to mention, since we're specifically talking about food shelves, food banks, there's a lot of federal money coming towards down the pike about concerning local food procurement. There's the LFPS, local food, LFP, let me, I want to quote it right here, LFPSA, LFPACA, there we are. All those fun acronyms government likes to throw out. But yeah, there's a lot of money being made available for states to receive this federal money and then find ways to utilize that funding for local food procurement. And so I'm just here to give make sure I'm waving my hand again here to all you guys, letting you know that we are very passionate about this. We've got, I'll give you 3 really specific examples. I know I'm taking up a lot of time, I apologize. Verna Craigness, who we just heard from a little bit, as she mentions, she has this Prairie 501c3 nonprofit, and we're looking into establishing a partnership with her. There's a few avenues that we can be addressing, not only food access, but other food system related issues such as food waste and pricing, price points. And so one way is the Minnesota Department of Ag is putting some funding towards trying to, at the end of the farmers market day, and I was a farmers market attendant vendor for a few years. At the end of the day, you have all this excess produce, you pack it all up and you bring it home, and then you don't know how you're going to market it, what to do with it. So a fund that could be created to purchase that produce at the end of the farmers market day and get it to a food shelf, so that not only is that fresh, nutritious food that's been harvested and is ready to go somewhere, is getting someplace to, you know, people who need it, but then also that farmer is being reimbursed. As much as it is nice to donate, you know, we need to be supporting local food producers as well. The other avenue is creating a multi-farm, basically CSA market box. That's going to give a lot of our, especially new roots Americans, new Americans producers an opportunity to scale up and kind of learn the ins and outs of business, but then that's also going to be targeting people that might be in a kind of the gray area of not in the income threshold of not getting much food assistance. We can maybe create a 50% or so reimbursement fund that they could apply to get the CSA box for their family and get it for half off. That's another avenue. And then the third thing that I'm actually approached the Great Plains Food Bank with here recently. There is a really good, I think, fund program going on in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area called the LEAF, L-E-A-F-F, Local Emergency Assistance for Farmers Fund. And that would be just creating a fund that basically if we get $20,000 in it, we can pick 10 local producers, say we're going to buy $2,000 worth of your local produce. That's then in turn at fair market value, that's, or really close at least. That's then in turn going to be just donated to the food shelf or food bank. So again, this is addressing food access needs. As Janice mentioned, they're always looking for and in need of more nutritious, fresh, healthy produce. So this is definitely doing that. She said she wants it to be cost effective, which I definitely agree with. And if we could have a fund where we're using federal money, organizations, businesses, sponsors, individuals giving towards it, we're getting all this money and then we're utilizing and we're spending that money locally and circulating it. So there's additional benefits to not just food access, decrease in food waste, and many other things. Sorry, I could talk for an hour, but I'm going to quit now. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm going to put my email address in the chat, but I'd love to reach out. And last comment too is not only funding would be great. Deb, I hear about your comprehensive plan, and some infrastructure needs are definitely top of our list, as far as maybe having a storage type facility to really help facilitate the aggregation and distribution of these local food products. We love our partnership with Moorhead Massage and Wellness, where we currently operate, but that's not a long-term viable facility or location for us. Again, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Sorry about rambling a little bit here, but appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Commissioner Kelly, did you have a comment or question there?
I was just wondering if Bjorn would drop a link for some of the federal funds that he mentioned, if that is available. but I can reach out to him via email too if he shares that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Michelle, did you have your hand up?
I did, yes, thank you. I was just gonna make a brief comment on behalf of Leola Dahl and the Heart and Soul Community Cafe, as she was unable to join this morning. But as you may already know, the Heart and Soul Community Cafe is a nonprofit, but they have a food trailer now, or a mobile cafe, to where they can go to different parts of the neighborhoods and serve a meal as a pay what you can type model. And so they do have upcoming cafes and throughout the summer. So I encourage everyone to check out their Facebook page and support them. But they will be at Horace Mann, Faith and Journey Lutheran Church, and Peace Lutheran Church on set dates throughout the summer. And Leola also wanted me to mention that they are always looking for volunteers, specifically guest chefs. So if anybody is interested in trying their hand as a guest chef at a community cafe, definitely check out the link that I just shared in the chat, but there are also other opportunities to be able to volunteer as well. And a personal plug is Fargo Pass Public Health is going to be hosting the mobile cafe on June 3rd, which is a Friday from 11:30 to 1. So if you're all interested and able, we would love to have you come join us for lunch.
Anybody else? Next is item 10, commissioners and steering committee roundtable. Does anybody have any comments on today's meeting or any community updates to share? Go ahead. Any comments? Go ahead. Okay, now we move on to commission action steps. The next first Friday will be June 3rd. And the next commission meeting will be September 14th. We'll be taking a break over summer as well with the next commission meeting on September 14th. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Deb White.
Or the second?
Seconded, Jeremiah Yutek.
All in favor by saying aye?
Yeah.
Okay.
All same, motion carried. Thank you for everyone and have a good day.